When I first came here as a Chinese immigrant, I had to go through a rather long period of adaptation. I have to be honest that it wasn't easy because I had a lot of self-doubts. I was uprooted from a place that I knew very well, that people have a good reputation. I had a good academic record. But when I came here, I had to start all over again. No one knew me. I was a quiet Chinese girl that seemingly nobody noticed. So a lot of self-doubts, a lot of struggle with my self-esteem, searching for my identity, and searching for a purpose here in America. So all these were my struggles. And thanks to many people who have granted their helping hands and support and words of encouragement from my family, from my church, and from my colleagues at work, I was able to survive through those years. And gradually, I started realizing a few things. The first thing that I realized is there's nothing for me to feel embarrassed or ashamed of my background. Yes, I'm different, and yet my cultural heritage actually is the biggest blessing that I can count on. Why is it a blessing? Because it allows me to understand the American culture and actually my own Chinese culture in a different way. Now that I have two cultures, now that I have understanding of both cultures to use as reference points. Other people may only have one reference point when they have to make a decision, but I have two. I can pull the best out of the two worlds and create a better result. And I can find a delicate balance between the two, because oftentimes you may see the two cultures representing the two extremes of the continuum. And now that knowing both and having experience of both, I can find a happy medium. I can find the optimal balance there. So that becomes my greatest blessing, my greatest asset. So the first thing, as I mentioned, I realized that there's nothing for me to feel ashamed of my background. And number two, I also learned that I can be courageous to express my feelings too, because being brought up in a more traditional Chinese culture, my tendency is to be the quiet, shy, and reserved young person in the group setting, and I'm also very afraid of making mistakes. So I tend not to share much about what I truly think about issues. So the second thing that I learned is actually America is a very accepting culture. It has a great tolerance of differences, and it really, really appreciates the different voices being heard. So what I learned is I can really express myself, even though I may not be always right. It's just okay, because it's through this exchange of ideas that I learn, and I also enable others to learn. So this is really a culture that promotes this co-construction and this collaboration, and which I have to overcome my own shyness and my own fear of making mistakes to allow myself to come out of my shell and be myself and be more expressive. And the third thing that I learned is I would never want to give up some of the virtues that I learned as a Chinese, such as diligence, such as putting in my best effort, and such as humility, as well as respect for authority. Now, these virtues may not be highly valued here. However, in all my years in America, these virtues have taken me to a much better and higher place. You know, the fact that I can be humble enough to respect authority, but not giving up my rights to voice my opinion, helped me to strike a beautiful balance. You know, people will look at me as this is a respectful person, and yet also, when it's need to, she's courageous enough to voice her opinion. So she contributes. So there's a very nice balance between being courageous enough to speak the truth as well as being respectful. You know, so there is a lot that we can be proud of as a Chinese. At the same time, as we understand that there are differences in the expectations in American culture, we can also learn so much from the American culture and the beautiful place that we have here, and to happily find this wonderful balance, which will just strengthen us as a person and as a citizen here and as a Chinese here.